Well, that's a good perspective to start this video with. Welcome back to Indian Trace. We've got an antique book. I guess you could call it antique. Historical book. Copyright 1873. Which is interesting because, well, of course, my cause usually on this channel is the cause of liberty. I love the Liberty Bell on this. I have a comment about this silver. Isn't that interesting? 1878. 1878. And I didn't plan that. 1873. What's this one? 1852. Those are, well, 1952. That's much younger than the Liberty. Court 50s. But it's all silver. Liberty Bell. Interesting stuff. Here's the deal. In the last, there's a good look at it. And this book is 7 and 9 Years Among the Comanche and the Apaches. It's a great book. I read it some 10 years ago, but a reprint, so it was not an antique book. And this antique book was given to me as a bonus. Don't you love the way antique books look? Even smell. It's fine with me. And then the old silver. My last giveaway, which is pretty big. And we're going to get to a selected group. Some points of interest. Found something very interesting about these triangles that the ancient Stone Age North American Indian were doing with these. Lots of different time periods, and if you're talking about historic things or old things, now the natural light looks real good now. These are old. You put your hands over them. These, and they have the energy. These are old. My goodness. 4,000, 5,000, 3,000 years old. I mean, these are some old stuff. This here, this is historic. You could call it old coins because they don't make them anymore, but they're not old. Silver's good. The price of silver, bullion, just in materialistic way, is going up. Silver's going up, up, up. I don't really collect it for its material value, but it's for an intrinsic thing. Just brings back some childhood fondness for me when it comes to old silver. I will always consider old silver, if you have it, to trade for some artifacts. Nothing like these. I don't really trade, don't really sell my artifacts. Now I find a bunch that I'm willing to give away and find a new home for. You all know that. So he threw the book in as a bonus. Powerful, right? I mean, look at that. Old books. They're just powerful. So I started to read again. Why not have another read on it after 10 years? Love old books. Indeed, it's an antique. It's valuable. But I think he would agree with me that this old book, well, it's nothing close to being as valuable as these. I mean, talk about rare. I can get a reprint of that book. I can get the same words, the same writing, and I can get it in repetition. But these are all one of a kind right here. One human being, another human being, another human being could be separated by hundreds of years, if not 1,000 year, 2,000 year periods for some of these. I mean, I don't know for sure. Some of these triangles could be from the woodland period. I do not know. But some are much older, much older. So let's look at some of these and we'll just talk about that. I've been interrupted twice. That means the video got broken and I had to redo it. Nice old book. My thanks for you. And I'm not going to say his name. He knows exactly who it is. It was a good trade. He got a lot of good artifacts. A lot of good artifacts. Check these out, though. Some points of interest. Some great points. Here's a point. And they're all worked exactly the way they wanted to. Nothing by accident. This is a point here done and found at Site 1. These are all really unique. I don't find many triangles like this. Not many at all. There's only one compartment. And these are the only ones I have. These are the only ones I have in 15,000 plus artifacts. Crazy, crazy stuff. And here's another point. This is interesting because this is from Crosslands. It's a heavy caliber deal. It's strong, it's thick. It's reduced off the back, as you can see. But the interesting point in this is, and as well as many, And check this out. This is the cortex right there. Can you see it? Right here, that's all cortex. So they knocked that flake off, and then they went to work balancing this point. They went to work working it and getting it balanced in the stonework form. And then that was it. And I'm talking, this is more devastating as a point than my 7mm Remington mag. Now, there's more efficiency with the bullets we have now, of course, with modernization and modernity, but it did the job for them, I'm sure. I mean, look at this. You want to talk about doing the job for them? 4,000 years ago, this came from B&B Field. This is an incredible triangle. Banded rhyolite. And again, they knocked the flake off. Look, it's a uniface. They knocked the flake off and then went to work balancing it, sculpting it out, where they could just haft it in, and it would just do the job. And this is far too big for being a bow. This was not a bow point. Now, I could be corrected. They could have gone ahead and tried it, and it could be, because we don't really know. We want to believe we control everything. We want to believe we know everything. Now, in today's modern world, the reason why I post many interest links when it comes to information is because, for the most part, American material culture, and I was listening to a girl today who was born in Russia through her teenage years, and then she moved to the United States, and she posts, and her name is Anessa S., and she deciphers what's going on in Russian, and excuse me, but I mean, she translates it for us to learn what's going on in terms of modern news and everything, and the narrative and what's going on in Russia is nationalist, Greek, Orthodox, Christian, and freedom-loving. There's no such thing as the USSR anymore. Communism has fallen. The narrative we have is, look at that, that's the outside. If you can tell me anything about this point, that's the outside right there. You can see the relief on the back. I get carried away. But I post because I know. And now if I took to TV again, now I've given up TV for about 25 years. What a waste. Most of the advertisements are a waste. They're belittling. I find it offensive because they think you are unintelligent. They think we are unintelligent, that we can just be duped and tricked by watching 10, 15 commercials per show. The same commercial 7 times through the Super Bowl. To program us to go and buy something like zombies. It's just so belittling. So forget the advertisement, but not just that, it's the information. It's disgusting and belittling that people just put up with being lied to without doing their own homework, without finding out what's going on in the world. What's going on in Venezuela, what's going on in Guatemala, what's going on with huge groups of people that are just together being paid for to move towards the southern border in America. What for? Why are they doing it? Who's paying? I could go on and on with different subjects. What's going on? You know? What's going on in North Korea? That's an incredible point. Found from across the street. Now getting put underneath, that site is getting put underneath an athletic field. School was built there. So, I have a few points from there. I know it's an ancient Indian site. I still have opportunity in the back corner because they haven't excavated it yet. Here's another great point. So consider the political interest links because of these things. On the video before this that got scratched, I was telling a story about a Native American Indian who emailed me and said, I'm a Native American and you disrespect these artifacts, you disrespect my people. I mean, almost cussing me out. I was like, okay. And I wrote to him. I told him I don't have the capacity within myself after being touched as a young boy in 1978 living with the Navajo Indians, going to school with the Navajo Indians as children who I played with and loved, and then moving and growing up and learning about what truly happened to them in the historic period of this nation and the misfortune of being systematically exterminated, genocide exercised upon them, germ warfare, violence. It was bad. So I just mentioned that very quickly, and then I said about the artifacts that you say are sacred and I shouldn't touch them. If in 1,000 years they came back to my property and gathered up the silverware and thought it was awesome, forks and knives, my favorite hammer, my favorite 5-in-1 tool, the nails from my house, the things that I needed to live, and they thought they were cool, and they were all the things that I needed to provide for my living, they would mean nothing to me. And these artifacts that you're looking at, although they're cool to us and they tell us about the history, and they jump in time from different periods, this was expendable to them and didn't mean anything to them. Now, the deer or the bear, the food that they were harvesting with these points meant something to them. They didn't go running into the bush looking for a point or an arrow that they lost. They were tracking. They needed food, and they needed it to survive. No Walmarts, no food lines, no traders, no nothing. This is Stone Age North American Indian. And so I just sent that note back. I said, these points were expendable. I know they were because they are in, and I find them by the multiplied thousands. And so do all the people I know who respect your race. I pretty much said this to them. And you know what? We're friends now. Pretty much, they wrote back and said something clicked. Something changed in the way they saw arrowheads, the way they saw Stone Age stuff. And I assured him that his people, with the AIM and the American Indian Movement, and now the Historic Period Indian, they also had nothing to do with these artifacts. That's common knowledge, it's proven. And look at this piece from Saponi. It's just crazy. I'm just jabbering away here, I'm sorry. But I made a friend, see, that's the big deal. And I wasn't trying to convert him, but he, as an Indian, see, that's the most important part, could see what I was making mention of. Whether they come in 1,000 years, come back and think that the plastic bottles I used or my silverware was something that they find curious, things that didn't biodegrade. Something that speaks of who I was is fine with me. But this stuff, this provided for their food. So they could find a whole box of my 7mm Remington mag shells unfired, and they find a cache. And they think that's great. But they don't need to put it in a museum like it was something sacred of mine. Now, if they put it in a museum just to say this is something that tells about the human being that was here, that's fine. But it's not sacred. These stones were not sacred to them. The people behind this, to me, are worth our memory. They're worth recognizing so that we do not go forward and commit the same errors of hate, usury, greed, and selfishness. Oh my, this is an awesome point from Saponi, I'm going to tell you. The materials are different. These are vastly different periods of time, I'm pretty sure. They're old. Far older than this, for those of you who are kids who are watching. And this is an what is it? I can't see it right there. 1878 silver dollar. And this book is 140 years old. But that's young. That's for Archer, and that's for Cameron and your cousins. This stuff, I'm going to tell you, this piece right here, it's a minimum of 2,000 years old. Possibly older. Came from Crescent Woods. And they used the flake again. You can see they broke the flake right off the rock. They didn't need to get fancy in the middle or try to. And then they just went to work on the edges, forming the piece. Reduce the back edge from a flake. That hump's common. We saw the hump right here. And that's what really impresses me. So complete utilitarian pieces. I think what fascinates us as collectors, sometimes it's not expressed, is that these human beings' individual personalities, all of them were after one central thing. That is the thing that was sacred, the food, and it's not this coin. This coin represents it. All of these were after one thing that was sacred, which was the food source. When we came to this nation, the Europeans came to this nation, and that food source started to be destroyed and misused. It angered them so much and broke their heart. They gave their life, their blood for it. Period. Appreciate you tuning in to Indian Trace. Hope you find out there.